Raj Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda ki jai.
Jai.
ISKCON founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai.
Jai.
Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vashadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda ki jai.
Jai.
Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shyam Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan ki jai.
Jai.
Vrindavan Dham ki jai.
Jai.
Navadvip Mayapur Dham ki jai.
Jai.
Ganga Mai ki jai.
Jai.
Jamuna Mai ki jai.
Jai.
Tulsi Devi ki jai.
Jai.
Bhakti Devi ki jai.
Jai.
Kramaveta Bhakta Vrinda ki jai.
Jai.
Gaur Premanande.
Hari Hari Bol.
All glories to the assembled devotees.
Hare Krishna.
All glories to the assembled devotees.
Hare Krishna.
All glories to the assembled devotees.
Hare Krishna.
All glory to Sri Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. Hari Hari Bol. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Krishtaya Bhutare Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Shami Iti Namane Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirbhishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Is Shashi Shekhar Prabhu there?
Hare Krishna. Yes, Prabhu.
Could you read the translation of this sixth?
Yes, Prabhu. Let me read. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the 6 Goswamis, namely Sri Rupa Goswami, Sri Sanatana Goswami, Sri Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, Sri Raghunath Das Goswami, Sri Jiva Goswami, and Sri Gopal Bhatta Goswami, who were engaged in chanting the holy names of the Lord and bowing down in a scheduled measurement. In this way, they utilized their valuable lives, and in executing these devotional activities, they conquered overeating and sleeping, and were always meek and humble, enchanted by remembering the transcendental qualities of the Lord.
Thank you very much. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om
Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
We're reading the Sri Caitanya Caritamrita Adi Lila, chapter 10. Here we are, text number 105.
শ্রী গোপাল ভট্ট এক শাখা সর্বোত্তম রূপ সনাতন সঙ্গে যার প্রেম আলাপন.
Translation. Sri Gopal Bhatta Goswami, the 47th branch, was one of the great and exalted branches of the tree. He always engaged in discourses about love of Godhead in the company of Rupa Goswami and Sanatan Goswami. Purport. Sri Gopal Bhatta Goswami was the son of Venkata Bhatt, a resident of Sri Rangam. Gopal Bhatt formerly belonged to the disciplic succession of the Ramanuja Sampradaya, but later became part of the Gaudiya Sampradaya. In the year 1433, Shakabda, when Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was touring South India, he stayed for 4 months during the period of Chaturmasya at the house of Venkata Bhatt, who then got the opportunity to serve the Lord to his heart's content. Gopal Bhatta also got the opportunity to serve the Lord at this time. Sri Gopal Bhatta Goswami was later initiated by his uncle, the great sannyasi Prabodhananda Saraswati. Both the father and mother of Gopal Bhatta Goswami were extremely fortunate, for they dedicated their entire lives to the service of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. They allowed Gopal Bhatta Goswami to go to Vrindavan, and they gave up their lives thinking of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But Lord Chaitanya was later informed that Gopal Bhatta Goswami had gone to Vrindavan and met Sri Rupa and Sanatan. He was very pleased, and he advised Sri Rupa and Sanatan to accept Gopal Bhatta Goswami as their younger brother and take care of him. Sri Sanatan Goswami, out of his great affection for Gopal Bhatta Goswami, compiled the Vaishnav Smriti named Hari Bhakti Vilas and published it under his name. Under the instruction of Sri Rupa and Sanatan, Gopal Bhatta Goswami installed one of the 7 principal deities of Vrindavan, the Radha Raman deity. The Sevites, priests of the Radha Raman temple, belonged to the Gaudiya Sampradaya. When Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami took permission from all the Vaishnavas before writing Caitanya Caritamrita, Gopal Bhatta Goswami also gave him his blessings, but he requested him not to mention his name in the book. Therefore, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami has mentioned Gopal Bhatta Goswami only very cautiously, or in 1 or 2 passages of Caitanya Caritamrita. Srila Jiva Goswami has written in the beginning of his Tattva Sandarbha, a devotee from southern India who was born of a Brahmin family and was a very intimate friend of Rupa Goswami and Sanatan Goswami, has written a book that he has not compiled chronologically. Therefore, I, a tiny living entity known as Jiva, am trying to assort the events of the book chronologically, consulting the direction of great personalities like Madhvacharya, Sridharshami, and Ramanujacharya, and other senior Vaishnavas in the disciplic succession. In the beginning of the Bhagavat Sandarbha, there are similar statements by Srila Jiva Goswami. Srila Gopal Bhatta Goswami compiled a book called Shatkriya Shad Deepika, edited the Hari Bhakti Vilas, wrote a foreword to the Sat Sandarbha and a commentary on the Krishna Karinamrita, and installed the Radha Raman deity in Vrindavan. In the Gaur Gunadesh Deepika, verse 184, it is mentioned that his previous name in the pastimes of Lord Krishna was Ananga Manjari. Sometimes he is also said to have been an incarnation of Gun Manjari. Srinivas Acharya and Gopinath Pujari were 2 of his disciples. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Katamahyam Dadati Sha Pandantikam. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivas Adi Gaur Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Before speaking, I'd like to take the blessings and permission from all the devotees, and especially the senior Vaishnavas who may be senior by age, advancement in Krishna consciousness, or involvement in the Hare Krishna movement, also known as ISKCON. Thank you. Thank you. So we're reading now, we heard about Srila Gopal Bhatta Goswami, one of the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan, very exalted devotees who, under the order of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, compiled literature from various Vedic sources to substantiate and build the foundation for the Hare Krishna movement in describing with Vedic references the practice of Bhakti Yoga, both from the neophyte stage all the way through the stage of Raganuga Bhakti. And among those 6 Goswamis, Gopal Bhatta Goswami is there. He was the second of the 6 Goswamis to meet Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. First was Raghunath Das Goswami, then Gopal Bhatta Goswami. And as mentioned in this purport, when Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami sought the blessings of the Vaishnavas in Vrindavan to write Caitanya Caritamrita, he approached Gopal Bhatta Goswami, and of course Gopal Bhatta Goswami gave his blessings, but only on one condition. What was that condition? That he not, go ahead.
That his name be not mentioned in the Charita.
Yeah. So how do we know much about the life and the teachings and the activities of Gopal Bhatta Goswami? Other literature is there. The descriptions of Gopal Bhatta Goswami are particularly there in the Bhakti Ratnakara, which was written about 80 years later by another devotee in the disciplic succession of Lord Chaitanya. But in Caitanya Caritamrita, we have some information about Gopal Bhatta Goswami, although he's not mentioned by name except here in this particular verse. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, after taking sannyas, he had his intention to go immediately to Vrindavan, but he was directed instead to the house of Advaita Prabhu in Shantipur. There he met the devotees from Navadvip who were missing him, had separation from him. He also met Mother Sachi. She requested him to go to Puri. So he did go on foot from Shantipur to Puri and stayed at Puri for a short time, just to deliver Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. And then right after that, after about a month, he started on his walking tour of South India. So Puri, he went along the east coast of India, and Puri to the place where Gopal Bhatta Goswami was living with his parents, Venkata Bhatta, the father, is about how far from Puri to Sri Rangam?
At least more than 30 hours in the train.
How fast does the train go? So I checked on, of course, you can check on the internet how far it is. It's about almost 1,000 miles from Puri to Sri Rangam, which is in the district of, what you call it, Tirunchirappalli. How do you say it? They say Trichy sometimes, right? How do you say it properly?
Tiruchirappalli.
Oh, very good. Thank you. So there's a district of Tirunchirappalli and a town of Tirunchirappalli, and Sri Rangam, where Gopal Bhatta Goswami was living, is just adjacent to that town of Tirunchirappalli. And the temple there of Sri Rangam is the largest Vaishnava temple or operating temple, Hindu temple, as some people say, in the world. Angkor Wat, the whole area in Cambodia, is bigger, but it's not functioning. So Sri Rangam, the perimeter of the temple area, which is surrounded by 7 walls and 7 gates, is 4 kilometers, the circumference of those area, with 21 gopurams, those big, large domes with carved pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his associates there. So 21 gopurams. And that temple has been there for quite some time. It's an ancient temple. It's a center for especially the Sri Sampradaya. Ramanujacharya, who was the prominent acharya in the Sri Sampradaya, coming from Lakshmiji, although he was born elsewhere, he made his center there in Sri Rangam. After he came, when he came there, he was initiated by Yamunacharya, and Yamunacharya was one of the Alwars, and he made that his center. It's a big place. It's in the island of the river Kaveri. So if you read, I was reading something about the temple there. It's what they say, and mostly they say it was built in the empirical historians say it was built about the 2nd century BC. But we'll see that this temple was present during the time that Lord Balaram went on pilgrimage. Lord Balaram, instead of participating in the Battle of Kurukshetra, he decided, no, I'm not going to do that. Plus, there was the incident with the Romaharshan Sutta. So he went on pilgrimage, and one of the places he stopped at, it's mentioned very specifically, was the temple at Sri Rangam. So apparently the temple has been built and rebuilt many times over the centuries, but it was present there at the time of Lord Balaram touring, which was about 5,000 years ago. And I thought I would read a little bit about the temple here of Sri Rangam. I have it here, Madhya Lila 979. Lord Chaitanya, after visiting the holy place named, this is 9th chapter, Madhya Lila, 79th verse. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu arrived at Papanashana and there saw the temple of Lord Vishnu. Then he finally reached Sri Rangakshetra. Sri Rangakshetra is a very famous place. It lies in the district of Tirunchirappalli, about 10 miles west of Kumbakonam and near the city of Tirunchirappalli, on an island in the Kaveri River. The Sri Rangam temple is the largest in India, and there are 7 walls and 7 roads surrounding it. The ancient names of these roads are the road of Dharma, the road of Raja Mahendra, the road of Kulashekar, the road of Alinadana, the road of Tiruvikram, the Tirubidi road of Madamadi Gaisa, and the road of Ada Ayavala Indana. The temple was founded before the reign of Dharma Varma, who reigned before Raja Mahendra. Many celebrated kings like Pulushekar and Jamunacharya, Ala Bandaru, resided in the temple of Sri Rangam. Yamunacharya, Sri Ramanuja, Sudarshanacharya, and others also supervised this temple. The incarnation of the goddess of fortune, known as Goda Devi, or Sri Andal, was one of the 12 Alvars, liberated persons known as Divya Suris. She was married to the deity of Lord Sri Ranganath. That's the deity there of Vishnu, Narayan, lying down, Garbharakshay Vishnu. And later, she entered into the body of the Lord. An incarnation of Karmuka named Tirumanga, also one of the Alwars, acquired some money by stealing and built the fourth boundary wall of Srirangam. It is said that in the year 289 of the age of Kali, see, this is 289 years after Lord Krishna's disappearance, the Alwar of the name Tondaradipadi was born. While engaged in devotional service, he fell victim to a prostitute. And Sri Ranganath, seeing his devotee so degraded, sent one of his servants with a golden plate to that prostitute. When the golden plate was discovered missing from the temple, there was a search, and it was found in the prostitute's house. When the devotee saw Ranganath's mercy upon this prostitute, his mistake was rectified. He then prepared the third boundary wall of the Ranganath temple and cultivated a Tulsi garden there. There was also a celebrated disciple of Ramanujacharya known as Kuresh. Sri Ram Pillai was the son of Kuresh, and his son was Vagvijay Bhatt, whose son was Vedavyas Bhatt or Sri Sudarshanacharya. When Sudarshanacharya was an old man, the Muslims attacked the temple of Ranganath and killed about 1,200 of Sri Vaishnavas. At that time, the deity of Ranganath was transferred to the temple of Tirupati in the kingdom of Vijayanagara. The governor of Ginji, Gopanariya, brought Sri Ranganath from the temple of Tirupati to a place known as Singha Brahma, where the Lord was situated for 3 years. In the year 1293 Shaka, 1371 AD, the deity was reinstalled in the Ranganath temple. On the eastern wall of the Ranganath temple is an inscription written by Vedanta Deshika relating how Ranganath was returned to the temple. Yes. So Lord Chaitanya, this Ranganath temple is very famous. Lord Chaitanya came there, and we know that there's a pastime of Lord Chaitanya speaking with a Brahmin who was illiterate. That happened outside the Ranganath temple. The Brahmin, he was trying to chant, read the Bhagavad Gita every day, but people were making fun of him because he didn't pronounce the words correctly. And they were laughing at him. Lord Chaitanya inquired, and he said, "What are you doing, Brahmin?" The Brahmin explained, "Well, my spiritual master told me to read this Bhagavad Gita every day. I can't do it properly, but I'm simply trying to follow the order of my Guru Maharaj." So Lord Chaitanya said, "That's very nice, but then why are you crying?" I said, "Well, I look at the picture on the front of Krishna, Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, driving the chariot of his devotee Arjuna, and I'm just overwhelmed with appreciation and love." So Lord Chaitanya then embraced him, saying, "You are the actual understander, knower of Bhagavad Gita." Because he had strictly followed the orders of his spiritual master, all the purports of the Vedic literature were revealed to him. The verse is there, "Yasya deve para bhaktir yata deve tata goro tasyaiti katitahyarta prakashante mahatmana." Anyone who has firm faith and follows strictly the order of Krishna, the spiritual master, all the imports of Vedic knowledge are revealed to them. It's reflected also in the verse on Bhagavad Gita. Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mama prayanti te. To those who are constantly devoted, engaged in my service, I give them the understanding, knowledge by which they can come to me. So the Shis Goswamis, as we were singing in that verse, they were always engaged in devotional service. Sankhya Purvaka Nama Gana Natibi, chanting a fixed number of rounds. Sometimes people say, well, it's more important to chant with quality more than quantity. The 6 Goswamis are indicating there should be both quality and quantity. Sankhya Purvaka Nama means there's a certain fixed number. We take a vow to chant. And so we practice chanting a fixed number, but try to improve the not only the quantity, but the quality of the service. I know when I was a newer devotee, the head of the kitchen, I got the opportunity to make the puri dough for the Sunday feast. You've made puri dough sometimes, perhaps. So I made it one Sunday, and the puris came out okay. And then I asked the head cook, he said, what can I do? How can I improve? So you know what he said? He said, do exactly the same thing, but just remember Krishna more. That's it. Improve the quality. So when Lord Chaitanya arrived at the home of Venkatabhatta, he was welcomed there. That's the father of Gopal Bhatta Goswami. And it happened to be the time of Chaturmas. And Chaturmas is usually about 4 months. And Lord Chaitanya stayed there with Venkatabhatta for 4 months during the Chaturmas period. Because at that time, it's difficult to travel because of the rain. Lots of rain comes. Sometimes there's flooding. So I don't know if you know if there are any other important personalities that got instruction for 4 months during the rainy season.
Narada.
Yes, Narad Muni. He just heard for 4 months from the great Bhaktivedantas that were staying in the home during the rainy season. And Gopal Bhatta Goswami was just a boy of about 7. His date of birth is about 1503. So he was about 7 when Lord Chaitanya came there. And he heard Lord Chaitanya's discussions with his father, Venkatabhatta. Also, his 2 uncles were also there, Tirumal Bhatt and Prabodhananda Saraswati. So they were discussing about the intricacies of bhakti, Krishna consciousness. Satam prasangam mama virya samvido bhavantirit karana rasayana katha. That's the happiness of devotees to discuss about Krishna consciousness, like we're doing here. So Lord Chaitanya appreciated very much the service that Venkatabhatta, who was one of the pujaris of the Sri Rangam temple, was giving to the deities. But one time he somewhat jokingly commented, he said, I know your worshipable deities are Lakshmi Narayan, and Mother Lakshmi is the mother of the universe and the most chaste lady. So, my dear Venkatabhat, why does she aspire and perform austerities? He quoted the verse from the Puranas, to get access to join the rasa dance with Krishna, if she's a chaste woman. So Gopal Bhatta was hearing this. So what did Venkata Bhatt say? Do you remember? No? Okay. So he said, Lakshmi, Narayan and Krishna, they're both just two the aspects of the same person. Just like sometimes we say Narayan is Krishna at the office. Usually, Narayan worship is done in awe and reverence, in majesty, Aishwarya Bhav, with great awe and reverence. Whereas Krishna is more intimate. So Lakshmi, he said, Venkata said, it's not a fault of Lakshmi to want to enjoy her husband and all of his different characteristics, pastimes, activities. It's not unchaste. So then Lord Chaitanya said, okay, that you're right, that's very true, but I understand that Mother Lakshmi is the most chaste lady. But then how is it that even though she executed great austerities and penances to get entrance into the rasa dance with Lord Krishna, she wasn't allowed to enter? How is that? So then what did Venkata Bhatt say? You know this? Then he said, I have no I've reached the limit of my understanding, but I can appreciate that you are the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So you please instruct me. So Lord Chaitanya then elaborated on the difference between the Sri or Ramanuja Sampradaya type of worship and the Gaudiya Sampradaya type of worship, in the sense that Lakshmi performed austerities, but she didn't follow in the footsteps of the gopis, of the Vrajavasis, in order to get the access to that most intimate relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One cannot do so without following in the footsteps of the residents of Vrindavan. This is a characteristic of the Gaudiya philosophy. So there's a difference. Lord Chaitanya was pointing to the superiority of the worship of the residents of Vrindavan, the intimacy of that worship, as opposed to the worship of the residents of Vaikuntha, which are worshiping in awe and reverence. Of course, both are incredibly wonderful and pure. But of the two, one pleases Lord Krishna more. When there's majesty, when someone is put in a big post, everyone is giving worship and everyone is giving appreciation and bowing down. But there's a lack of intimacy that inhibits the free flow of loving exchange between the Lord and his devotees. And Lord Krishna specifically appreciates the most that very intimate loving exchange. He appreciates everything, but everything of that service, every service, but that kind of service that's imbued with intimacy of love is especially pleasing to Lord Krishna. We know that when Lord Krishna was accused by his cowherd friends and even his brother Balaram that he had eaten dirt, they tattled to Mother Yashoda. And Mother Yashoda said, come here, come here. And did you eat dirt? And Krishna says, no, I didn't eat dirt. They're just giving me, they're criticizing me unnecessarily. They had some grudge against me. So I said, well, open your mouth, please. So he opened the mouth, and inside Mother Yashoda saw all the universes there inside the mouth of Lord Krishna. She became afraid, a little bit disturbed, and she closed the mouth. Okay, don't do it again. Don't do, because seeing the greatness of the Lord inhibited her feeling of being the mother of Krishna, and that's her service, to serve Krishna as his beloved mother and having to protect him. No one can be the mother of God ultimately, because God is the source of everyone. But in order to serve him in that way, the devotee has the feeling of intimate love as a protector, as a maintainer of the child, as the Supreme Personality of God, it becomes the child. Also, when Arjuna asked to see the universal form of Krishna in the 11th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, he was shaking, he was trembling, his hairs were standing on end when Lord Krishna showed him that Vishvarup. And then after a short time, he said, I have committed so many offenses, treating you like an equal. We've sat on the same bed, joked, as if we're equals. Now I understand you're the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Please forgive my offenses. But then he said, please change back into your real human-like form. So Lord Krishna then changed into a four-armed form of Narayan, and then under the request of Arjuna, back to his two-armed form. And Arjuna became pacified and happy to see the two-armed form of Lord Krishna. So Lord Chaitanya made a point with Venkata Bhatt, Gopal Bhatta Goswami, and his uncles, that he appreciated this is God, this is Krishna, Lord Chaitanya's Krishna, is that he appreciated the intimate love of the residents of Vrindavan as the topmost kind of devotional service. So he stayed there for 4 months in Sri Rangam and went to the temple, often chanting, doing Sankirtan at the Sri Rangam temple in front of Ranganath. And then when he was about to leave, Gopal Bhatta Goswami, this is explained in the Bhakti Ratnakara, begged him, please don't go. He was serving him that whole time, and please don't go, giving him massage, giving him food. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then agreed to stay a few more days. And during those days, when he stayed, Gopal Bhatta Goswami had a dream. Sometimes usually we dream about all kinds of nonsense things, if you're like me. Is that what usually happens? Yeah, but Gopal Bhatta Goswami had a dream. In this dream, Lord Chaitanya invited him to participate in his Leela in Navadvip, because Gopal Bhatta Goswami was unhappy that he hadn't seen the early pastimes of the Lord. So Lord Chaitanya gave him access in his dream to those Navadvip pastimes, and he revealed his identity as Krishna. He changed from Lord Chaitanya form to Lord Krishna, two-armed form, playing a flute, and back in the dream of Gopal Bhatta Goswami. So, and then he gave him an instruction in that dream, that very soon you will be meeting some very jewel-like personalities, and you please assist them in their mission of compiling the Vedic literatures that support devotional service. So Gopal Bhatta Goswami was certainly amazed at this dream, and then he approached Lord Chaitanya and he said, let me can I do this service for you right now? Where can I meet these two jewel-like persons? And Lord Chaitanya said, not now, not now. You serve your mother and father because they are pure devotees of the Lord, and take instruction from Prabodhananda Saraswati, who had taken initiation from Lord Chaitanya. And then when the time is right, after your parents are leaving, then you go to Vrindavan. So that's the important point here, is that ordinary dreams are not, we don't pay much attention. But when you dream about the spiritual master or Krishna, those take those dreams very seriously, as did Gopal Bhatta Goswami. So he followed Lord Chaitanya's instructions, and when his parents passed away, he went to Vrindavan and met Rupa and Sanatan, and as mentioned here, they accepted him as their younger brother. So Lord Chaitanya asked he was in Puri at the time, and he sent a letter asking, has Gopal Bhatta arrived in Vrindavan? And he got a message back saying, yes, Gopal Bhatta has arrived, and he's under the care of Rupa and Sanatan Goswami. So Lord Chaitanya, he hadn't forgotten about Gopal Bhatta Goswami, although it was many years later. So he sent to Gopal Bhatta Goswami a piece of his cloth that he wore and the seat that he would usually sit on. And that cloth and seat are still visible in the Radharaman temple in Vrindavan. So when Gopal Bhatta Goswami took those articles very happily, with great reverence, appreciation. The verses there with Lord Shiva is speaking with Parvati. Aradananam sarvesham Vishnu aradana param tasmat paratanam devi tadiyanam samarchanam. Lord Shiva says, of all kinds of worship, the best worship is worship of, who's that? Vishnu, yes. Tasmat parataram devi. But even better than worship of Vishnu, tadiyanam samarchanam. So often that's translated, tadiya, as being a devotee. The devotees worship the devotees, but it also can be understood as those things that are associated, the paraphernalia of Krishna. Tadiyanam. So that cloth and seat personally used by Lord Chaitanya was worshipped like that, as the worshipable paraphernalia of Lord Chaitanya. So Gopal Bhatta Goswami, later, he went to the Gandaki River, which is in the Himalayas, to search for shalagram shila. He found some shalagram shilas there, and but then he thought, well, maybe it's not a good idea there to do the shalagram worship. So he put them back in the river, but the story goes that they jumped back into his hand. They wanted to accept his service. One of those shalagram shilas was called a Damodar shila. So later he brought those shilas to Vrindavan and was worshiping them. And one rich merchant began to donate all kinds of riches and paraphernalia for the worship of Radha Krishna or Krishna. So Gopal Bhatta Goswami was wondering, how are we able to use this paraphernalia? Because with a shalagram shila, you don't dress elaborately. It's very simple worship. So he put the dresses and jewelry and crowns, etc., in front of the deity, and then overnight, the deity that Damodar Shila became manifest as about a 12-inch deity of Krishna. That's Radharamana. And all the other 6 Goswamis came to see this wonderful thing. So that Radharaman deity is of the different deities of the Goswamis like Govindaji, Madan Mohan, who were evacuated during the Mughal period when the Vrindavan was attacked often by the Muslims for smashing the deities. Radharaman is the only deity that was allowed to stay or stayed in Vrindavan because he's so small they could hide him in the area. So Gopal Bhatta Goswami, there's books written by the very recent head of Radharaman Temple, Srivastava Goswami, in his discussions with devotees from the Hare Krishna movement. It's very interesting, his perspective on the Hare Krishna movement coming from that branch of the Gaudiya Sampradaya. There's several books that he compiled that were in cooperation with ISKCON. Gopal Bhatta Goswami. And Gopal Bhatta Goswami also compiled and wrote books. Says here that Sanatan Goswami was the author of the Hari Bhakti Vilas, which is a long treatise on how to do devotional service, specific details, but attributed it to Gopal Bhatta Goswami. So there's a little confusion about who wrote it. Some people say that Gopal Bhatta Goswami also wrote it. Some people say Sanatan Goswami wrote it. Here it says that Sanatan Goswami wrote it, but attributed it to Gopal Bhatta Goswami. And also it's mentioned here that Gopal Bhatta Goswami, he edited it also, which means he found other references to support the information given in the Hari Bhakti Vilas. He also wrote a book mentioned here called the Shatkriya Shar Dipika. Shatkriya Shar Dipika. Shatkriya Shar Dipika. This is a book that's specifically made for Grihastha devotees, Vaishnavas, on how to follow the Vedic rituals within the in Kali Yuga, according to the Pancharatriki system of worship. So it's it's available. You can find the Shatkriya Shar Dipika online, translated into English by ISKCON devotees. It's very detailed. For example, he gives, all these invocation mantras for beginning any ritualistic ceremony for purification. He also wrote this Sanskar Deepika, which describes especially all the different sanskars, but specifically describes Vaishnav Sannyas. Vaishnav Sannyas, and that Sanskar Deepika was instrumental in when Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur reinstituted sannyas in the Gaudiya Sampradaya in 1918. Then he wrote commentaries or introductions to other literature like the Shat Sandarbha by Jiva Goswami, etc. And then the last thing mentioned here is that his previous name in the pastimes of Lord Krishna was Ananga Manjari. Do you know who Ananga Manjari is? What her special distinction is? No? Ananga Manjari is Srimati Radharani's younger sister. Oh, Ananga Manjari. So also, I forgot to mention when Gopal Bhatta Goswami had the dream before Lord Chaitanya left from Sri Rangam, he said that your followers, you help the Rupa and Sanatan compile Vedic literature to support Bhakti literature to support the conclusion of devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And your disciples, your followers will be instrumental to distribute it, especially to Bengal and Orissa. So Srinivas Acharya was his initiated disciple, as mentioned here. He took initiation from Gopal Bhatta Goswami, and Narottam Das Thakur and Shamananda Goswami took regular instruction or shiksha from Gopal Bhatta Goswami, and they were the ones responsible for taking the works of the Goswamis and popularizing them in Eastern India, Bengal, Odisha, and that area. Gopal Bhatta Goswami ki jai. So if you have any questions, comments about this.
Thank you, Prabhu, for the wonderful narration. This is so details of Gopal Bhatta Goswami. One is he compiled so many literatures but remained humble. That's amazing. You wanted to. With regards to Hari Bhakti Vilas, it was written that he, what is Sanatana Goswami put. It was compiled by actually Gopal Bhatta Goswami, right? Mostly.
No, it was written by Sanatana Goswami, but as said here, he attributed it to Gopal Bhatta Goswami.
But
out of his great affection for, he compiled the Vaishnava Shruti name and published it under his name. His name means
Gopal Bhatta Goswami.
Gopal Bhatta Goswami. So that's why there's confusion.
Okay. Yeah, that's a little, but still we refer as Hari Bhakti Vilas as Sanatana Goswami only.
Yeah, usually. And Gopal Bhatta Goswami edited it as well.
Do we read Hari Bhakti Vilas in our, I mean, I didn't read it actually. There's so many references to Hari Bhakti Vilas, but I don't have that book also.
It's quite extensive. We first focus on nectar devotion, which goes over some of the same principles. The Hari Bhakti Vilas gives a little more detailed information on certain things. For example, how to do deity worship at different times of the day, how to worship, how to observe various festivals.
My understanding was because Hari Bhakti, the deity worship, all this came from Sri Sampradaya, and it was compiled by Gopal Bhatta Goswami. But Gopal Bhatta Goswami is offered to Sanatana Goswami the other way, it looks like. But here it's in here says that's from Sanatana Goswami to Gopal Bhatta Goswami.
Yes, well, I mean, you could take it, the Vaishnava, and publish it under his name. His name, I mean, you could take his name to be Sanatana Goswami, but then it wouldn't make sense out of his great affection. You could take the great affection means he compiled it. But anyway, there's some difference of opinion about that. I see Acharya Prabhu has his hand up. He's muted though. Or maybe he. Okay. Okay, well, any other comments or questions? In the Hari Bhakti Vilas, there's 20 vilasas, and each detailing a certain aspect of performing devotional service. The things to be done in the morning when waking up, the things to be done. It's quite detailed. Srila Prabhupada, in doing deity worship and instructing deity worship, he simplified many of the things. What's accepted from the Hari Bhakti Vilas in deity worship and what's not, that's worked out by a committee by the GBC called the Deity Worship Committee, and it's quite interesting. I mean, how they do that.
And that that Gopal Bhatta Goswami learned from Prabhupada Saraswati, right? About the compiling about the deity worship also. Is
The
it?
deity worship stuff. Well, his father also was a pujari at the Sri Rangam temple. His father was there, so he learned, I'm sure, from his father, and Prabodhananda Saraswati also.
So we can see that even though many times it is referred as the 6 Goswamis are direct disciples of Lord Chaitanya, but we see that Rupa and Sanatana Goswami are the only direct disciples. Raghunath Das Goswami took initiation from Rupa Goswami or Sanatana Goswami, like that, indirectly.
Yes.
Gopal Bhatta also the same thing. He took from Prabhupada Saraswati.
Yes. So we give a little more emphasis on the shiksha relationship, because they all got shiksha. Rupa Goswami in Allahabad, Sanatan Goswami in Benares, Gopal Bhatta Goswami at Sri Rangam, Raghunath Das Goswami in Puri. So they were all instructed by Lord Chaitanya.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. Prabhuji, I heard about Ananga Manjari. Balaramji is serving Radharani as Ananga Manjari. Is it true? Because he is in male body, he cannot serve Radharani. So that's her form as her sister. I just heard it.
I'd have to look. I'm not sure on that one. Maybe somebody else.
Okay, Prabhu.
I think I've heard that as well, but I don't remember the exact reference.
Okay, Prabhu.
Sorry.
Thank you. No problem. Hare Krishna.
Hari Bol. Any other questions? Acharya had his hand up, Acharya Prabhu, but I guess he got busy or something. Okay. Thank you all very much for your kind attention. Hare Krishna. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa
Thank you, Vishnu.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Prabhuji.
Everyone.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you, Krishna.